Hi, welcome to Tech Time. Today we're going to be looking at some special Excel things for you. Now, we've had some Excel classes before. We talked about basic Excel, and we've also looked at how to do formulas in Excel. But today we have something special. Today we're looking at some of the tips and tricks to help you become an Excel master and get through your spreadsheets a lot faster. So sit back and enjoy, because we're learning tips and tricks today on Tech Time. So for today's Tech Time, we are going to look at some Excel tips and tricks to help you be a master Excel person. Well, maybe not a master, but it'll definitely help you do things quicker and maybe more efficiently. Before we jump into our tricks, I want to show you just a little something that leads into one of our tricks. So as you can see, I have a document already opened. I have some information here. We can say this is an address book because we do have names, phone numbers, and addresses. Now, one of the things that you can do in a spreadsheet is organize the information by filtering it or sorting it, which is what we're going to do. So I click on a column, let's say the column with the last names in it, and then I go over to the sort and filter button over here on the far side. When I click on that, I click sort A through Z. Now it's asking me if I want to expand a selection, which it just wants to know if I want to include the rest of the information in my sort, which I do, because if I don't, it'll just change this column and then it'll be out of sync with the rest. So I do want to expand the selection. Click sort, and now everything is organized according to the alphabetical order of the last name. I can do that with the first name, the last name, the telephone number. But look what happens with this last column. So I have addresses here. I have the street number and the actual street name. And if I try to sort this out, because maybe I want to know where everyone lives by address and I want to try to group them together. So I do the same process. I highlight the column, go to sort and filter, sort A through Z. Do I want to expand the selection? Yes, I do. See how from my sort it has done it by the street number, but not necessarily by the street name. That's not too helpful for me, because if I want to group these people by where they live and see who's on similar streets, this isn't going to help me do that. The problem is when I type this information in, I put these two together. If only I could just separate these so that the street number and the street name are in separate columns. Now, there's a couple ways I could go about this. I could just start typing the street name here and then delete it from here, which would take a lot of precious time. Or I can use my first tip. So Excel has a nice way of delineating information in a column. So what I do is I select the information. So I'm selecting column D. Then I go to Data, the Data tab. In the Data tab, we're going to look for text to columns. That's right here in the middle. Nice little handy button. When I click on text to columns, one of the options I get is delimited. So what it's going to do is, based on the criteria I set, it's going to separate these two into separate columns. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And now it's going to let me decide how I want to split. What am I going to use to determine where it gets split? Well, thankfully I have a space between the number and the street name. And so if I look here at the different things I can use to split, space is one of those things. So wherever it sees a space in this column, it's going to split the information into two. Now I'm going to click on Next to see how it plays out down here. And as I can see, It does split this up nice. It also wants to know what I want to do with this column. I'm going to tell it that it's just text so that it treats it just like it does any other information. And then I'm going to click Finish, and let's see what happens. So as you can see, all of the numbers now, there's my street numbers, there's my street names, and everything is the way it should be. So if you're ever in a situation where you have some information that's squished together in a single column and you need to split that up, this is a great way to do that. Now let's go into our second tip. To look at our second tip, we're going to need to add a little bit of information here. So I'm going to change this so it's no longer an address book. We're going to make this into a ledger, like a financial ledger. So let's say these are my clients and they owe me money. So I'm just going to put in some random numbers here. Just fill in each of these. We'll make a few that are really small here, just to mix it up. And one more. Okay. So we have a nice mix of numbers, and we're going to pretend that these are how much they owe us. So we're going to just change that in the Home tab to dollars. There we go. So by highlighting the information and clicking on the dollar symbol, I've told Excel to treat these as money. Okay, now that I have this information, what if I want to kind of keep track and see who's doing well and who's not doing so well? You know, who's highly in debt and who's, doing a good job of getting out of it. So what I'm going to do is highlight the column again, and I'm going to use a special feature called Conditional Formatting. Conditional Formatting is this button here in the middle, and it allows me to add some color to my document, which will allow me to visualize what's going on a lot better. Now there's different ways to do this, different options that we have. I'm going to use the color scale. There's also some nice icon sets that you can choose from. But I want to go with the color scale because I want you to see what it looks like when we do the color scale. And I'm going to go with the standard red, green, yellow format. So basically what it's showing me is right now it has green as being the higher numbers and red being the lower numbers. And I actually want to change that. So I'm going to go back to the conditional formatting, and I am going to manage my rules. This allows me to determine here what this is supposed to look like. So I'm going to click on Edit Rules, and I'm going to switch this up now. Instead of using what's here, so red's fine, but I don't want it to be the lowest value. I want it to be based on numbers. So the lowest, the red numbers, I should say, let's make those the higher ones. So if it is 300 or higher, it's going to get red. If it's 150 to 300, it's going to be yellow. And then we need to also change that to number. So put in 150. And then the last one number, we're going to change that 0 to 150. Okay, so when I click OK, oh, I have this backwards. That's the problem. So we want green to be the positive We want red to be the negative. We want this number to be 0, and we want this number to be 300. There we go. So I've adjusted my scale, and now I'm going to click Apply, and let's take a look. So now, if somebody's doing good, they have a low balance, so 25, 50, up to about 100, they're in the green. If somebody's not doing as well, they're in the middle range, so that's 150, 120 is kind of pushing it a little, and then 200 is kind of orange, and then in the red zone is anything above 300, so 300, 400 are in the red zone. That means they're not doing so well. So you can set this up to show you anything that you want. It's a really great tool, especially if you're trying to create like reports and you want to submit a financial report to show how the company's doing or how individual salespeople are doing. This is a great way to show that. And you can even do it monthly. So, you know, this month they're in the red, but maybe in the next month they're in the yellow or in the green. And you can show that progression. You can also use the arrows, which is one of the conditional formatting features, to help show that trend. So they're going up, they're going down. So a lot of great things you can do with conditional formatting. So that's tip number 2, conditional formatting. Tip number 3, so I showed you what to do if you want to split things up when that are in one column into 2 separate columns. What if we want to combine 2 columns together? What if the information needs to be into one? For example, I have the names here separated, which is probably good, but what if I need a column where their names are actually together? Well, there's a special formula set that you can use. It uses the ampersand key. So we're going to enter a formula. Whenever you enter a formula, you want to put the equal sign in first. That's letting the system know that we are formulating something. And then the formula, so let's say I want to show the last name, first name. So I'm going to put in column B first. So that's B1, letting the system know that we're starting with this. Now, I need to put a space in because if I don't, it's just going to have the names squashed together. In order to put a space in, we're going to have to add in the quotes, put a space, and then an end quote. This can also be done if you want to put a comma. You would put the quote, comma, end quote, or whatever it is that you want separating the 2 things. All right, now we need A1. So I'm going to type A1. Now what I'm missing is the and, because that's what's telling us to put this together. So I'm going to add the and there. And I also need the and after the B1, because it's B1 and a space and A1. So take a look. So I have the equal sign. I have B1. I have the and. Then I have my quotation, a space, quotation, the and again, and then A1. So when I hit enter, it should put Gomez Mary together. Just like that. So now that is one column. And I can stretch it out just to make it fit better. There we go. So using the equal sign and the add to help put in a formula, we're combining the information from 2 columns together. Of course, I could combine them all together, just keep putting ands in and then adding in the information. Now, this brings us into tip number 4. And tip number 4 is the autofill feature. Autofill allows you to quickly add things in, copy things. You'll see in just a moment. I'm going to use it right now because I have this information I just put in. It's wonderful, but I want to extend it down to all of the others. Now I could just click and start typing in the formula again and do it 7 more times to get all of these in, but that takes time. The quick way to do it is to go back to where I entered my formula first, and then I want to look in the bottom corner here, and you'll see it right there. There's a little box in the bottom right hand corner. See how my big plus sign suddenly goes on a quick diet and becomes a really skinny plus sign? That's how you know you're in the right spot. So when you find the autofill, you click and you just simply drag it down, let go, and voila. It has copied that formula down for all of these, so I didn't have to just sit there and manually enter it each time for each one. There are some other things that your autofill feature will help you with. I'm going to come down here to, let's go to B12, and I'm just going to type in January. Let's say I was doing a document and I needed to put in all the months of the year in my document, and I could again just sit here and type out each one, but again my little autofill buddy is going to help me out. So I find the autofill, I'm going to drag it over, make sure to get all the months in, then let it go, and voila, all the months have been autofilled. So I didn't have to sit here and type out each one. This also works if you want to do the days of the week. So I'm just going to type in Monday, go back and move down, let it go, and there we go. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the autofill is a smart feature that kind of picks up on what you're trying to do and helps you to fill in the rest of the information. It also works really well for copying. So let's say I needed to put a number 1 in, or whatever number it might be, and I just want to copy that number. So I just autofill straight down and it copies the number over and over and over for me. I can even do a sequence if I want to, but to do a sequence takes one extra step here. So to make the 1 copied down, I just hit the autofill and pulled it down. But to make a sequence, I have to teach the program just a little bit to help it understand what I'm looking for. So by adding a 1 and a 2, I now have the start of a sequence, and I'm going to highlight the 2 together. So you can see that the highlight box is covering my 2 numbers. Now that the 2 numbers are highlighted together, I'm going to take the autofill and pull it across. And now it's doing a sequence because I showed it that that's what I want. Not just to copy the same number, but to run a sequence. So that is number 4, tip number 4, autofill. Tip number 5 is using a unique feature that Excel has that none of the other spreadsheet programs currently have. And that is the table feature. If you're using any other spreadsheet, whether it's Google Sheets or one of the open source ones, they have not been able to recreate this feature for any of those yet. This is something that is unique to Excel, so that's why this is our final tip. When you have information on your spreadsheet that you want to combine into a table, and I know you're thinking, well, isn't this already a giant table? Yes and no. It is technically a table, but there are some things that you can do with a real live table versus just the spreadsheet. And I'm going to show you how that works. So we're going to start by highlighting the information we want to put into the table. So I'm going to ignore the information we put here, and we're just going to run with this base information. Now what we need to do is format this as a table. So I'm going to go to my Home tab. In my Home ribbon, near the middle, right next to Conditional Formatting, is Format as Table. When I click on this, it gives me a bunch of different table options to choose from. I'm going to go with something a little colorful. We'll do blue, should be fine. Let's go with blue. Once I choose which one I want to use, and honestly it doesn't matter which one, it's just more of a visual preference. It now highlights the area to verify that this is the information going into the table. So if I'm happy with that, I will say yes. The next thing it's asking me is, does my table have headers? As you can see, this table that we're trying to put in does not have headers. I did not add any to begin with. So I am not going to check that. If I did add headers, then I would check that, and it will recognize that the top set of information is actually my header. But since that's not the case, we're going to leave it. I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, it has added in automatically some headers for me. They're not specific, so I have to go through and fix them, but they are there. And then the rest of my information is nice and neat. So I'm going to go into each one and just double click so I can rewrite what's there. So since this is first name, I'm just going to put first. Hit the tab, go to the next one, and this is last. Hit the tab, these are phone numbers, so I'm going to put phone and then the pound symbol. And this is the street number, so I'm going to put street and then the pound symbol again. Oh, I think I accidentally hit something here. Let's fix that. Just undo really quick. There we go, hit the tab. This one is my street name. And this last one is the debt. I can stretch this out just a little, make sure everything fits nice and neat. There we go. So now my table is official. Now you might be asking, so what's so great about the table? I mean, yeah, there's some nice color in there. Yeah, it looks a little neater, but what's really the best thing about this? Remember earlier when I showed you how to sort and filter? Well, one thing that is beneficial about having a table is you can do it a lot quicker. So notice that right now everything is out of order based on last name. We're going to put it in alphabetical order by last name. Before, I would have to highlight the column, come over here, find sort and filter, and it's about 3 or 4 steps. Now, all I have to do is click on this down arrow, click sort A through Z, and it's done. 2 steps. Find it, click it. Find it, click it. That's it. So I can sort any of this information now just by clicking on the arrow and sort and filter. The other great thing about a table is you can easily add information to your table. All I do is go to the last area. So this is my last line. I'm going to go right below it. This is where I want to add information. So I'll just put in my name here. There we go. Notice that as I started typing this information in, it automatically added in this row for the table. So I didn't leave it blank. It's adding the table as I go down. You can do that on this side of the table. You can even do it as a column. I can't right now because this information is blocking, but if this were an empty column, I could just start typing here and it will add a new column for me to my table. So those are just some of the great benefits of having a table. There's others, but we'll save that for another time. So just to review quickly and go over the 5 tips that we've looked at today. Tip number 1, when you have information that is stuck together in a column, you can delimit that by highlighting the column, going into the Data tab, choosing Text to Columns, and then delimiting the information using either a space or a punctuation of some sort to let the system know where you want to make the split, and then watch it as it splits the information into two separate columns. Tip number 2 is using the feature conditional formatting to help show numbers in a different way. It's a more visual, easier to read way. I mean, just by looking at this, you can tell who's doing well and who's not doing so well. In fact, let's put it in order, and now you can really see it. Tip number 3, we showed you how to take information that's in a column and split it apart. Then I showed you how to take information that's separate and put it together. We use a simple formula. So we put in the equals, we put in what we want to be first in our new column. We use the and from the keyboard. Since we want a space to separate these things, we use the quotation marks with a space in between, another and then the final bit of information, and then voila, it puts it together in one single column. Then we used our 4th tip and trick, which was the autofill, to automatically fill in, which I can do right here. So that the information now, that's why I did it. So it auto-filled and put in my name together using the autofill to copy that formula that we already had put in earlier. We also autofilled to put in the months, the days of the week, and then we used it to copy a number and also to create a sequence. So, great tip the autofill feature provides. And then finally we talked about a table. And the table is an easy to use feature and also a unique feature to Excel, because it allows you to take information and put it inside a real live looking table, and it makes things easier for you when you're trying to work with information. So those are our Excel tips and tricks for today. Thank you for watching. Please let us know how we're doing. Leave us a comment or likes or hearts or whatever you want to leave down below. If you haven't done so yet, go to our YouTube page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all sorts of different videos, a lot more tech time videos like this, but also a lot of crafty videos and just fun things happening here at the library. So check out everything that we're doing. Check back next week for another session of Tech Time Online. Again, thank you for watching, and take care, everyone.